All right, so today I am going to be throwing together a mug. So we're gonna use this as an opportunity to demonstrate making a cylinder. So I've got my wear board ready to go for when I finish throwing this. Got my clay, got all my tools scattered throughout this setup here. Got my wire tool, my needle tool, my wood knife, and I like using this guy sometimes to create some nice texture. So I've got my chopped in half metal rib all ready to go. Let me go ahead and just wipe this real quick. All right, and we're off. So go ahead and get this centered. I'm gonna start at the base where I dig that pinky in and really get that centered, get us started off right. Bring that up and back down. Again, I'm gonna make sure that I kind of dig my pinky in at the base so we stay nice and centered. So I'm gonna be making a mug with this cylinder, but all the beginning steps are gonna be the same. So I've made my entry by pressing down with my sponge, keeping that nice and lubricated so we don't get stuck and throw this thing off balance. I'm using the claw technique to pull this material out to establish the floor. Now I'm going to create a little volcano shape just by kind of corralling this, pulling it up and in. And I've already got a little bit of an indent down here, so I'm not going to stress that. I am going to make sure that I keep my hand nice and wet as I make my first pull. Okay. So first pull done, I'm going to recenter that rim like you do. Then I'm going to get ready for my next pull. And I actually am going to push in a little bit at the base here and then start moving that material up. So I think I've got a nice tidy little cylinder here. We can compress that rim again, get it nice and centered. Now I'm going to turn this into a T-bowl shape that I really enjoy, and we're going to turn it into a mug, but it's kind of inspired by traditional T-bowl form that I really like. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to support this base and I'm going to push out at the bottom here to create a nice little undercut. Okay, so the walls are going to come down. There's going to be an undercut and then the foot. So I really enjoy this type of form. And I've spent a little bit of time playing around with it today, so I wanted to kind of show how that's being done. So what this form is doing is it's giving me a nice volume for how much fluid I can put in here, but it's got a nice dainty little foot that really helps contrast the mass that we have here while still supporting it and keeping it nice and balanced. Like if this was full of hot cocoa or whatever smoothie, it would still be really stable. So I'm going to use this guy right here to create some texture. I've been having fun with this kind of undulating spiral going up the side of my wall here with some of my cups. Now you might notice I'm using a darker clay. This is a high iron clay body, and so it has some really interesting effects that you can achieve with the Shino glazes, specifically like the white Shinos. We have Gustin Shino, and I've got another one I'm playing around with called Snowcap Shino. And what these Shinos will do is when they encounter a really textured surface like this, you have some interesting things happening with the glaze. Where it's thicker, it's going to be nice and white, bright white, and then where it's thinned out, where the glaze is thinned out, like on all these little peaks that I've created here, all these little edges, the glaze is gonna be thinner in those spots just because of how fluids work. And in those spots, you're gonna get these nice irony, reddish, orange tones. So you'll have this really nice contrast between these bright whites and then these nice orange, iron red tones. Sometimes you get some browns or metallic finishes too. So I like to create a lot of texture when I know I'm going to be working with that particular glaze or that type of glaze. We always got to be thinking about the next steps in the process when we're kind of starting out at the wheel, and so we got to be thinking about how we're going to trim this, how we're going to glaze it once it's trimmed, how it would be used once it's completed. We're not just artists, we're also kind of ergonomicists, figuring out how to make things comfortable for people to use. Play there. Clean my wheel head off. You saw that I just kind of made my indentation down there at the base for a finger hold, so when I go to pick this up, I'll have something to grip. So now I'm going to go ahead and take my wire tool and run that under. Now when you go to pick this up, you want to kind of keep your fingers the same distance apart. So if you imagine my fingers being connected by lines, we got a nice little square there. So now I'm going to use that square to pick this up, and I can set this on my bat, also known as a wear board. We've got a couple others here that I've already made today. You can see it's got a nice wide floor on the interior, but then we've got plenty of space on the bottom here to trim a nice narrow foot, which will make for a really interesting piece. That narrow foot helps give it lift, makes it seem lighter visually, and makes it really pretty. And that's it. This button isn't working.